I didn't go
Come
on.
on, bring it. That's it, brother. Come on. You got this. All right, folks, welcome back to the Week Search. Wow, I don't even know what show I'm doing today. This week, there we go. It's all Ann's fault. She came back. She hopped in that time machine and messed up my brain. So
it's not black and white anymore.
All right, I guess we'll start with Ann. Tell everyone who you are, what you doing, what you been up to.
You're muted.
Well,
I know I'm muted. I know I'm muted.
And welcome
I was
to the
getting an
21st
echo.
century.
I know. Thank you. I'm in color. I've been working on a lot of content. So we have some people that have offered to write content for our blog. And then we're also building a ton of content for social. So we're doing content curation and content creation. And what I'm trying to figure out is the whole evergreen content, how I'm going to optimize the content to be good for the search engines and for the user. That's what I'm working on.
Sounds like a valiant thing to be doing. Mr. Dury, Sarah.
Oh, that'd be me. I've been dealing with administrative stuff and trying to plan out what we're going to do from a content standpoint in the lulls of automotive. So the summertime is difficult sometimes for leads because people go on vacation and they don't think about buying new cars. So we're trying to come up with some new strategies with looking at some data.
Summer seems to be slowing a lot of markets I'm in as well. So, which is good, planning for the fall and whatnot. So, you know. Mr. Doc.
Yeah, howdy, everybody. I have been very unproductive this week, quoting a bunch of new jobs, sending out a bunch of pings on unpaid invoices. It's all the stuff you need to do that doesn't seem to generate any income. So I'm trying to get back on track again. Still working on this new launch that a friend of mine and I are working on. Not getting a lot done on that front.
You know, I had a meeting this week, so I'll be in need of some stuff next week. And hey, we pay up front, so chasing invoices with me. So
I hate it when the people pay up front. You know,
I know you do. Yes. So yes, probably early next week I'll get a hold of you. Some more stuff I'm going to need. Steve.
Well, that would be just me. There's only one Steve.
Only one Steve today. Yep.
Oh wow. I found that my longest standing client owns 2 other companies. And so he said, gee, maybe we could do some work for the other companies. So life is good this week. So I spent the morning setting up new Google accounts and properties for his new company. So that's awesome.
That is nice. Yeah, I have a few of those. Terry, take a swing at the ball.
Hey, this week I published an article on keyword trends using Google Trends. Learned some interesting stuff. How to look at some keywords, determine markets, etc.
So an article on keyword trends using Google Trends. See, and keyword stuffing's alive and well.
I am super excited. I already have it up and I'm reading.
No, I was just going to say, though, it sounds like keyword stuffing's alive and well.
Yay!
There you go. Keyword trends on Google Trends. For those that are trending in words and trying to be trendy.
See how the phrase keyword stuffing is trending.
Yeah. Tim. What have you been up to, Tim?
Mostly normal stuff. I launched a small pro bono site that I built for a local organization, and that was kind of fun. There's a group here that counsels women that are considering abortion and offers them various things to consider, and then we built a site for them. This is what I did for women who have had abortions and want to talk about it later in life. So interesting, very, very moving. So little more heavy than I usually am in terms of what I report on these days.
Oh, what was that?
Oh, you like that? Isn't that sexy?
Nice.
Wow.
All right, we'll go over here just for Ann. We'll start right here this week. Bill's at the doctor's. Well, he's on his way to the doctor's. Just a checkup, though, folks. He's fine. So I told him we would proceed without him. All right, so Bill put out another phrase-based indexing paper post. And I say another because God knows how many of these we've had. A lot. I think maybe 2003, 2004, or something like that. I guess the background for anyone who doesn't know, Anna Patterson started some of this stuff on her own. Then she got employed by Google, wrote some patents for Google. Then she left Google, started a search engine called Cool, which didn't go very well. So she folded that, went back to Google. Anyway, so in the time that she has been there, I think it's around 20. Over 20, Bill's saying. Okay, so there's over 20 patents assigned to Google on the topic of phrase-based indexing. So there might, where there's smoke, there's fire, as always, you never know. But, there could be something behind these concepts. I guess we'll start right in what was new. As far as what was new, there were some other elements on ranking. So ranking documents in the list based on a quantity of related phrases determined for each document, so that documents with more related phrases are ranked higher than documents with fewer related phrases. That's the basics of it. I think we'll just leave that there. And I guess for anybody who doesn't know, it's kind of, it's a semantic analysis approach. So I think one of my happy people here mentioned LSI along the way. And, I guess that's probably where that sort of debate comes in is, once upon a time, you had stemmings, and stemmings are like plurals and things of that nature to a keyword. And then obviously you've got keyword stuffing, which Ann is a big fan of. Or keyword density, I guess, was another one. But somewhere along the lines, and we could surmise at least they were thinking about it as early as 2003, 2004, and along since then have started implementing different forms. Because there's a lot of different ways to do semantic analysis. This is just one, but I think it bears note for people trying to understand the concept of semantic analysis is that it's, again, you're looking at related phrases, related concepts. I guess vectors as well, Doc, right? These days, I think that's the more recent, if you want to call it that, last 5 years. So, and so what for those watching, listening, or not sure, you're supporting concepts. We always use, we talked about the White House earlier. I painted the White House. Well, is that the White House down the street? Is that the White House in Washington? We talked about Jaguar, Jaguar the cat, Jaguar the car, Jaguar the browser, I think it is with Apple. I don't know. The football team and so on and so on. So it's the concepts and related phrases and things of that nature around those keywords or those terms that support it. And so what they're saying in this is that a document with more related phrases, meaning value add, beefing out a concept, is going to generally rank better than one without it. So, Ann, did you have anything left, or that was it? We did it in the green room.
We totally did it in the green room. No, I mean, so I think what I really want to see if there's a way to, let's go back to the very beginning when we used to do keyword research. And then we have tools that show us related words, and then you answer questions and you build all of this into one thing. And I really like planning things out ahead of time. So how do you, when you're working with, let's say, a content writer, because I do manage people that write content, are the days gone when you don't say, okay, here are the words and here are the related words, use these in a piece of content? How do you know this?
I think Doc can chime in on this, but to me, as far as when I work with writers, that's why I hired a writer, because those are going to come naturally. Those related phrases and concepts to a degree are going to come kind of naturally to a good writer, whereas an SEO writer, as they call them, is going to be stuffing stuff in there. I'm not sure, Leighton Dietrich at an LDA. I don't even remember. It was another farm, and Moz tried to make a tool at one point that would analyze, the top 10 pages or whatever, and try and come back with related terms and things like that. We've seen different LSI tools over the years that, I don't know of any that have really ever done a good job. So it might come down to just having good writers. I don't know, Doc. You can.
I think that certainly good experienced writers are definitely going to already have this style of thinking about how they're writing a piece in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. But I think that it basically, for me, when I learned how vectors work as applied to search, that really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was doing somewhat naturally without really realizing it. If you understand how vectors work in terms of search, then just consider you're on a slope, and you might go down off to the left or down off to the right or down the center, and these phrases and keywords that you're using vectors will all have similar angles if they're related, and different angles if they're less related. So the more that you can get that are in a similar angle, the more you can direct which slope you're going to go on in this piece. That I think that's a very simplistic graphical way of thinking about it. You're trying to steer the direction the piece is going in by directing those vectors. And so if you're talking about Jaguar, the football team, mentioning quarterbacks and field and yardage are going to have angles that are more similar in vector than mentioning jungle. Okay. So, I think that's a good way to help people understand that are perhaps aren't already thinking in that way about their writing.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. In the old days, it was based on matching one phrase as many times as you can on the page.
Oh, yeah.
When you were optimizing a good writer's writing, usually you had to go and remove the related terms and put in the exact same match. So good writers do it naturally.
That's what I believe. Yeah.
And
what if they talk in metaphors? What if they're like, they're really big on metaphors, and they're like, this is like this, and this is like this, and it's all over the map. Because
then you have to reel in your writer. I mean, having done this in different verticals, like years ago, running a team, I found that if you do your due diligence with developing your writing team, sometimes like maybe 3 articles in or 3 pieces of content in, it's just not working, and then you have to move on to somebody else. I know it sounds easier, but I try to find the thought leader. I think it's easier to get a writer out of an industry than to get a writer to write about an industry they don't know. So I go to that industry and I look for thought leaders there and get them to write for me, because I could teach somebody how to write the way I would like them to, but they're going to know their topics. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. But.
That's a good approach.
So after you get
or writers that have experience in certain areas, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if someone's an automotive writer and they've been doing that for years, obviously, or if they're even a gearhead, I mean, not even a thought leader. I mean, if I've got a writer that's a gearhead in their personal life, that's, they're suited to automotive, et cetera, et cetera. If it was gaming or something, or sports or whatever, I mean, like, Terry isn't a thought leader in sports, but obviously he could write about sports because he, spent a lot of time immersed in it. So,
well, that's what we've done at the agency. Is we've compartmentalized our stable of writers into their areas of experience, expertise. I mean, I've got people that are writing in construction that have written about construction a lot. I have some that actually managed a construction company for 20 years. So, depends on how much expertise you need in a particular piece as to who qualifies best to handle that.
Yeah, but what about just, so there are, in the automotive industry, as you know, there's a ton of brochures sitting in a PDF. There are manuals online that are in PDF form, and there's just a lot of information out there that I think needs to be dummied down, quite frankly. And so do you really think that, you know, if there's all this information about a topic already out there on the web available, that you can actually do justice with writing content with what you're given, even though you are not an expert in that industry?
But that becomes more of your strategy. Now, if it's flooded with that, you need to find a unique angle. You need to find, you know, it could be, you know, taking a bunch of that information and putting it in one place, or it could be a different take on it or a different angle on that information. You know, yeah, reproducing what's already out there in ranking obviously is going to be a bit of an issue.
Right, find your niche within that vertical. Find the information that people are looking for that they haven't. So like a lot of the stuff that we do from an automotive, I mean, I'm not going to get into strategy, but it's not rocket science from our perspective of we do it with the local spin. Like it is, how does this national topic relate to you in a regional or local aspect? And that lets us take the same idea in one spot and move it down this way for one client and move it down that way for another
like
one.
an automotive obviously locally would be weather issues, you know what I mean?
Like
the northern area is going to be different than your southern area, et cetera, et cetera.
Do you know how many times in this industry that particular concept, that people are just repurposing the same concept and swiping out the localization in it? It's disturbing how they are just copying and pasting in this industry. I'm not going to, my stuff's going to be original, and it's going to be different than all the copying and pasting that's going on in automotive, because it's atrocious. I mean, literally, they just change out Florida and put Minnesota. That's what they're doing.
I know. I like, and I agree with you, and I do, because it's
expensive.
They keep us in business. I love watching.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like our writers write different than that, but I mean, like, I feel your pain is what I meant to say.
It's, you know, as more and more content on topics gets generated, it's that field, that the window of opportunity is narrowing constantly. So you've got to be better, or like Kevin is saying, you know, find that niche within that vertical, find that approach that's going to appeal to probably a narrower section of users,
but more relevant,
but more
to your
effectively.
Local.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like to think in terms of niches and keywords and that kind of nonsense when it comes to this. I look at audience, because audience, right, is more important than, you know,
location.
And you can find audiences that no one else in your industry can find. Like, and I compete with a very large brand, and my visibility is double theirs because of that alone. Because I sought out different audiences that want the same product. Not a direct way of selling it. It's knowing that in their process, they have to get this product. So by appealing to them before they actually want the product, I'm getting in ahead of everybody else.
Yes, Terry.
I just want to direct this question at Doc for this as a concept. If you get your writer to write on a topic, and you get back the raw writing, and then you go in and basically you reformat the piece using your header tags. And when I'm thinking of header tags, I start to think about keyword phrases and related, you know, H1, H2, and then under the H2 you have related phrases to the H with using H3s, and you just break up the content that way. And in some ways that's improving the content. I'm just asking Doc as a concept, what do you think?
Well, I would agree that in some ways it's improving the content, but again, you know, the reader always has to be the target. You know, if I can please Google in the process, that's definitely a goal to be shot for. But Google, as Terry is wont to say, ain't ever bought shit from me, okay? I need to appeal to the user. So, you know, when I go through a piece and editing a piece to see if this writer is hitting it on the head, I'm looking for the flow. I'm looking for the logic. You know, is this piece answering the questions? Is it missing the mark? Is it all over the damn field? And I'm trying to keep some structural organization, but in terms of mind flow, you know, how is this going to appeal to the reader? And is it going to make sense to them? Is it going to draw them in? And if I do that, then I have a high level of confidence, not 100%, but a high level of confidence that Google is going to get it too. And if they aren't yet, they will very shortly. You know, they're improving dramatically, very quickly, about the semantic ability to determine what the piece is about. So if I'm talking about different aspects on a given topic with all these H2s and H3s, I don't have to divorce myself from what was under the previous H2. I just have to make sure that I've got a good focus because, again, I'm going to go back to vectors. All those H2s should have some similarity in angle, okay?
Right. It should just move slight different angles.
Yeah, they shouldn't be like this. They may be like this, okay?
Right.
So, you know, if I follow the hierarchy and I follow the semantic angles, then I should be good. But the reader has to be the goal. Google is the gravy.
The other thing I find, and I had this discussion with a client the other day, people don't read everything you write. If you break it down into short little paragraphs with headings, people key on those headings and they might read that short paragraph under there because they want to get through it fast and they want to pull the information that they want out of it.
That's certainly true that's what they want, Steve. But I think really engaging content, you know, you can overcome that to a great degree. You're never going to get rid of the person that just has to scan the page.
Steve, that's also why we've seen in various papers and patents that Google once upon a time had put out that things in bulleted lists, things in table data, they tend to chew that stuff up and like that because that's often how our brain works. You might glaze over that paragraph with stuff, but see that bulleted list or see that table data, and you focus in on that because these are the high points. And there's literally patents and papers that have been done by Google on that.
Yeah, I think also people forget, people don't read a page. Very seldom do they actually read a page. They scan a page.
Right.
So headings, bulleted lists, links, any kind of italics, anything that makes the font, anything that makes it stand out on the page, makes it stand out when the reader is scanning.
Right, prominence elements, bold, italics, things of that nature, bullet lists.
Yeah. That's why I see so many sites where the home page has literally no links to the inner pages other than in the navigation. Like, hey, folks, those links are useless in your navigation on the home page. They're useless. They're not doing anything for you. Put the same words in the text, you'd be surprised what will happen. All of a sudden, Google's got context to those same words that are just a list in a menu. You won't believe how much of a difference that makes.
Right.
Okay, Terry, what about shifting the link into a button in the paragraph, at the bottom of the paragraph? What do you think of that?
I think this one I'd even throw at our UX expert here, Kim. To my thinking, Kim, I think a lot of times those become a bit of banner blindness almost. Like someone sees a button. Like I know that CRO, we use it a lot and we play with those things. But I think in this context of, you know, as people are, you know, eating a piece of content up, or does that button make them think that if I click this, you're going to try and sell me something? Yeah. I mean, or do it, you know, when it's just a normal href link, you think it's, you know, the brain seems to go look at that and say, well, this could be more information.
Right.
Like
the button is a task.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, now I have to do something more than just think.
I think of it as buttons are transactional.
Right.
Links are informational.
It also depends what you put in the button. Like what's the text in the button?
No, it don't.
Not if you're reading an article No, I would never put a button in an article unless I wanted them to go buy something or subscribe or, you know, a task.
Yeah, and that's just the internet web surfer's brain is programmed that way at this point to see those as, like Terry says, a transactional element on the page.
Well, I'm thinking on a home page where you have a blurb. You know, you have a very 100-word blurb about
you know what you do, Steve? Go over to Google Optimize, set yourself up a split test, make one text saying read more, and make one a button saying read more, and sit and wait and see what happens, man. And find out for yourself. Don't even ask me, man. Just go put a test together and find out. But I'll bet you that the text read more.
I saw somebody do a test on that. You know, like on a blog page where you have blurbs of the first 100 words of several posts.
Snippet.
And they actually did a test to see whether a text link of read more or a button read more was more effective. And the button was 30% as effective as the text link.
Yeah, and I'll bet you even do another one after that and change read more to learn more. I'll bet you learn more will probably get more because it feels like you're getting something from it.
Ah, you guys, you got to add the learn more about what?
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. But yeah, I'll bet you read more doesn't do as well as learn more about X topic.
Right. Give them a reason to go. You know, what is the next thought? Or
what am I getting from it? Well, you're going to learn. We're going to give you something. Here you go. You're learning.
Right.
Yeah, the most effective in the text links was continue reading, because that was very innocuous. It didn't sound at all transactional. Didn't sound like they were going to have to give up their email address or anything else. People tended to click through on that more than they did read more or more. Continue reading was the most effective in text.
Right. But it might depend on whether they're on a mobile device or a laptop or a desktop.
True.
Yeah, because if they're on a mobile device and it's like continue, it's like, okay, shit, I'm totally out of time. You know.
Continue means like more work. It's like,
right.
Whereas learn more, I want to learn more. I'm going, I'll be smarter.
Yeah.
You're getting something, you know. Then they can go on Facebook and go, hey, I learned more today. I didn't just read more. Reading's for idiots. I learned more. But yeah, Steve, you know, that's the fun part is, you know, Google Optimize. You can play with all that kind of stuff.
So I've got a question for you guys. So on the topic of content, you know, I'm big on making sure that there's a clear call to action so that, of course, we want people to buy cars. So I want them to browse and get their information. So when you're talking about, you know, using a button versus using a link, I, of course, would say search our Optima inventory. And I might put a button if I have time. And we
were talking about an article, though. Again,
okay,
if it's already a transactional page that they're there to be transactional, I think a button would be the way to go. But it's that old depends thing that you love so much.
Yeah, but not all the content that I'm chiming in from an automotive standpoint. Most of our content is not sales oriented. Like most of the content that we're providing is articles in blog form that are actually, that's where most of our dealers are having issues, where all of their content is selling this car and selling that car and selling that car, whereas we're doing it more to engage the relationship
informationally.
So this is it. If I'm talking about a certain feature that I freaking love, okay? Like I used to get lost at concerts, and now with this UVO technology, I sync up with my phone and I'll never get lost again or not be able to find my car, right? That's a very applicable thing. If you're talking about a feature, you can write about something that's informational, that's not salesy, and it sells the person, the reader on the car, and then they like, oh my God, I got to get this feature.
Right. So you have a company,
but
you have an accompanying blog post or accompanying piece of evergreen content, and then obviously on your transactional page, learn more about the Yugo feature.
Right. Or you link to like write the story of this is the concert I went to, do the concert review and be like, and then at the end, I couldn't find my car and my friend went to this car and there's your link. The car goes, the reference to it in the content goes to that link, and then like I needed to find more information about that, then I would go there. So I would use that as like a gateway in. This is, don't you hate doing this at concerts? Hey, this is what my friend has. Here's the link to the commerce page or the transactional page, or even the evergreen piece of content where this is how the feature has been upgraded over time. This is where the feature started out. You could write that and add the content to, this is the feature in 2016. Look at where it is in 2018. And in 2019, you'll be able to yell into Google, okay, Google, and my phone will turn on. And then it will drive your phone up. No, I'm not kidding. But then it'll pull your car in. But so then you can keep adding to the evergreen content, but your content that you wrote about the topic is still what the user, I think, would be looking for. I would see that article and say, oh, that sounds like something I would want. And now let me change from research mode into purchase mode.
All right. So let me segue into something else we had on the docket for this week here, since it works so well. There was a post, who did it? I think it was on Search Engine Land. Yeah, here it is. It was talking about user intent and how to boost rankings, yada, yada, yada. And interestingly, I thought it was kind of neat because, well, nobody's talked about user intent in a while. But, you know, they went back to the ever popular, you know, navigational, informational, and transactional, right? And again, we've all known these concepts for a very long time, and so on and so on. So it got me thinking, and I was like, well, okay, you know, I know a guy who wrote about this kind of stuff a long time ago. And what's interesting is Google had a paper out, you know, here's the stuff that I did some 4 years ago. And Google had a paper out that it breaks it even further down. So the reason I'm saying this segues nicely is because, again, even that piece of content that's informational, again, how are we thinking about the end user, and how does that satisfy not only the end user, but the query itself, right? So this paper, the second one I linked up there from Google, it breaks down, like, even informational itself isn't just purely informational. They have what's called directed, meaning I want to learn something about a particular, something in particular about my topic. You have open. I want to get an answer to a question that has a single unambiguous answer. Or undirected, which is they want to learn anything or everything about a topic. Advice, well, that stands to reason what that would be. Locate, my goal is to find out whether or where some real world service or product can be obtained, which might sound navigational, but again, your navigational is more, I'm looking for a website, or I'm looking for something very specific. So even locating something in Google's eyes is an informational query. And then they have list, which is obviously, you know, list of Amsterdam universities or Florida newspapers and things of that nature. Then you also have resources, you know, straightforward. Download could be another one. Entertainment, to interact. You know, the goal is to interact with a resource using another program or service, or obtain. So even Google in that paper that I was reviewing at that time breaks down just informational queries into at least 7 or 8 or 9 different elements. Meaning, so there's sort of it's an extension of what we would consider an informational query, you know. So I thought it was interesting that the person at Search Engine Land merely said, you know, informational, transactional, but you know, that informational one is huge, and they look at it from so many different angles. So when you're doing that content, if it's evergreen or if it's blog or whatever, again, understanding that user intent and that query intent of where, you know, what you're trying to satisfy, if it's one thing or multiple things with that piece of content. You know, it's not as simple as just, all right, go write about this topic. No, well, what is the purpose of this piece, you know, of evergreen or blog post content? You know, what are we doing? What are we satisfying? What is it that, you know, because if you don't sometimes, Doc, I'm sure you come in this with your writers, you can end up with a very muddied piece of content that doesn't really satisfy much of anything. It's just content for the sake of words, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So
you get all this fluff that means nothing to either the search engine or the user.
Go ahead, Ann.
So my strategy is to always have a year make model on the piece of content that I'm writing for the blog. And then on the search results page of the website, where it's all Optimas, anything that's tagged 2018 Kia Optima will show up on the search results page as dynamically based on the most new content. So it's adding relevancy for it's merging informational and transactional, I believe.
Yeah, sounds like you just send me some money, I'll do a content audit.
Oh, whatever. I can freaking do it. I think it's relevant, and a lot of times somebody's maybe not ready to buy. Somebody that's higher up in the purchase funnel, they're looking at Optimas, and then they see, you know, oh, the Uvo technology, Optima Uvo technology. They'll go there to learn more about the vehicle. I'm telling you, there are lots of people who do not know how to use their vehicles. All of those buttons, I mean, you can even see it. There's search traffic in how do I use the buttons in my Kia Sportage? People ask those things and they search them. They want to know. So, I mean, I like to think that I can bridge a gap between.
And that sounds like a great place for some video content, if you ask me.
That's what I was
thinking. You know, I'm thinking right away as soon as I hear a question like that, it's like a little 2-minute video, boom, on that page with a little text and people on their phone. How do I do it? Boom, they click the video. Oh, that's how I do it. You know, like they don't even want to sit there reading. So yeah, that sounds like video content to me for sure.
Yep.
So I'm
it's already been made too.
Kia dealer, and I'm looking at the website for my local Kia dealer, and I'm trying to figure out where they have content like you're talking about, like a blog or something that talks about sporty uses of the product or something. There ain't nothing there. And so, are you doing this writing for dealer websites or for sort of related
it's for the dealer website, and it's definitely to help the consumer, because what you find out is that service, like people always come into service and say, I can't get into my car, my key fob's not working. Well, there's an entire video on how to do a key fob and change the battery. There are certain things that you don't have to actually go to the dealership to do. People call up and say, my steering wheel's locked. Okay. You know, so there are certain things where what?
When you see that, Tim, you know what it is? You'll find some 60-year-old guy who's doling out the money for advertising. And he doesn't being there. I did that industry, tried to get into it because I saw it as very lucrative. 9 times out of 10, the guy you're talking to has to get someone to turn on his computer. There's that.
Well, and that's it. This industry is completely run by people who are non-technology people. So most dealerships don't have an Ann, right? But
don't have anybody. There's no advertising in the newspapers and the yellow pages. We
don't do print. I'm proud. I mean, 90% of our budget's digital.
So so this is actually on feature utilization, instructional videos or content on the site. Okay, interesting. I was getting the impression it was things like the joy of participating in gymkhanas with your Optima or something like that, or rallies you could do in your Kia or something like that. But I guess it's not.
Rallies in your Kia.
Okay, so here's an example. Let me explain. I get my #1 trafficked page on my website is about remote starts. I have Game of Thrones, Winter is Coming, a big picture of one of the cars, with the Night King or whatever his name is. And it talks about viscosity of oil. It talks about the remote start, why you need one. It talks about all sorts of things. It's a little bullet list. Okay. And I get comments on that content all the time, because what am I doing? I'm actually selling a remote start, and then I have them go to the store and buy it for each make and model.
Okay, I understand that. Terry, to your point, you're probably right, but it so happens that this is part of a large family-owned kingdom of auto dealerships all around North San Diego County. They probably have 20 different dealerships, so maybe they're all idiots. I don't know.
Let's put it to you this way, Tim. They definitely have third parties that are doing all their heavy lifting.
Yeah,
There are more
actually the
third
name of
parties in
yeah.
automotive dealerships than any freaking industry I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's surprising that they even have stuff online.
There is a name at the bottom of the page, the homepage, dealer e-process. Is that ringing any bells?
I'm not muted. Sorry, this is gonna go the wrong way. Like we'll leave them out of. I'm so glad it's not us.
Oh, come on! All right, this is getting good now, boys.
Am I
Here we
giving
go.
somebody a paper cut and pouring lemon juice in it?
No. That's not our company. That's not my company.
Good.
So if it was my company,
honestly,
you'd get it.
I would have been surprised if it was, because I know you know what you're doing. So
Thank you.
both of you.
No, there's a lot of like it's not tooting our own horn, but like we're one of the only ones that we do it differently than all of our competitors. That's why we're having success, because the competitors do cookie cutter. They do. You'd be surprised at how many still do keyword stuffing, putting every city you work for or everything that you can react to.
Meta keywords. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that stuff that like, I mean, we keep it very simple from a standpoint of we tell the dealers that like, hey, when you're writing content on your webpage, even if you don't want to go with us, like I'll tell them this at automotive conferences or whatever, like just write on your webpage the same way that you would talk to somebody if they walked into your dealership. If you read the stuff on your homepage and you go, wow, I wouldn't say that out loud, then write something else. Like you don't walk in and go, welcome to our store. You know that we help all these other things. Have you thought about all those other dealerships and all those other models and stuff like that? So to Ann's point, there's so much crap out there that like it keeps the rest of us in business, because the opportunities to change and improve upon
are huge.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's widespread, because I did a lot of automotive stuff in the UK, and the old school tactics are alive and well over there. I mean, they're still stuffing their footer. They're still stuffing their meta keywords. It's stuff that went away 15 years ago. They're still doing.
Wow.
In automotive, it's very much, and a lot of it is driven by large conglomerate specialty host and development services that are putting together. They're going to give you an SEO site, and it's going to be a cookie cutter of 5,000 other dealers.
And it's a lot of set it and forget it. Like, so when they have, when you can pool money. So a lot of the dealerships in the US have what the hell is the word for it? But when they don't have to pay it. They're all co-opt. There we go.
There we go.
They're co-opt so that they can defer that payment. The whole unit in that region all pays for that price, so they get a cheaper deal, and they don't care in a lot of situations what the product is giving them, because they're looking at the final numbers and they don't realize the needles that are moving in that standpoint. So the set it and forget it techniques, to your point, are still used. Like we see it in the US on that aspect. But as Ann said before, the fact that 90% of your budget is digital is phenomenal, because 12 years ago when I first got into automotive, and now having come back to it, I still have dealers that will spend $35,000 to put an ad in the paper over the weekend with no tracking and no care and don't give a damn. And nope, but it works. It brings people in. It's difficult, the old guard and the new guard, getting them to understand that we actually can make them more money.
They're probably one of the industries that is the slowest to digitize. Yeah.
Not our dealership. We're number one in our region. Yeah.
Really? What region? No, I'm kidding. We'll talk about that.
Whatever.
We'll talk about that in the green room.
No, it's not very tough, man.
Ooh, that was Terry. I didn't say that. That was 100%.
I didn't even hear him.
From 1 to 3.
Well,
lots of SEO saying stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we haven't even really done SEO on our site. We're very much focused on, I need leads and I need them right now. Need them right now. Where are my leads? Where are my leads? So all of my efforts have been all on SEM mostly.
To keep on segueing here today, it's been interesting. Like apparently, like we could have actually called this a Search Geek Speak, because we really haven't deviated much off of keywords, content, and the like.
Yeah.
There was a conversation, I guess it was this morning, in the Dojo group on Facebook. It was yesterday. Okay. And it was about word counts. And it got a lot of traction. There's a lot of people chipping in on that one.
That's fun.
As always, I just put up the old "it depends." Like, yeah, again, like, we talked about a bunch of different things today, from content types to query classifications, keywords, and phrase related beefing out of content. But people, again, you can't look for that big red button and say, "What do I do here? Give it to me so I can go do my SEO," because the query, "What time is the hockey game tonight?" or something isn't the same, or what day of the week is Easter this year, because it moves all the time, is totally different than an informational query that's going to have a more long form required answer.
So I've got something on the content front of,
because it could be 1,000 words is the sweet spot. It could be 1,800. It could be 50. It could be 20. It's really, again, a query dependent thing.
So I was researching something, and it was about those you can an arrow garden. It's called an arrow garden, that you can grow herbs inside. And I just stumbled across this piece of informational content, and this guy was talking about it and what he's done and all this stuff. And sure enough, there was a link there, and I bought a $250 piece of arrowhead, this arrow garden light thing. And I loved it, right? But that's taking informational content and an informational query and turning me into a transactional buyer.
And this is you breaking your desk if you're not careful. Come on.
Yeah!
Yeah, of course. Like, content isn't strictly about links. It's about building trust. It's about transactional elements of conversion points. If it's selling a product or an email sign up or whatever your primary, secondary conversion points are, content can serve many purposes. But again, I think, again, the question was, what is the optimal length for content? And it just keeps going back. What is the best tool for SEO? What is the most times used a keyword in it's all very dependent and situational. I know we keep saying the it depends thing, but it's true. It does vary depending on the purpose of the content, the purpose of the page, the query space you're in. I just don't. What's that, buddy?
Give them the Dan answer, at least one.
Yeah. So we did back when we used to do podcasts before we did this live stuff. Yeah, we had a show, and somebody, one of the questions that was given to us before the show was, and Dan Teese was the guest, was, how many times should you use a keyword on a page? Dan just blank face went, at least once. Yeah. So, I don't think there is an optimal length for content. I think it was Steve Garrison or somebody was quoting a Matt Cutts video that 400 words was the sweet spot for spam. But since then I've read I guess the spammers were listening to Matt or something. But since then I've read a paper out of Google that they did research on, and it was like everything from TLDs to parts of the world. I think France was the #1 spammy place in the world at the time. And at that point, it was around 1,000 words. So I guess, the spammers had caught on. But I don't think you can look at stuff like that and say, well, we better make sure it's not 400 words. We better make sure it's not 1,000. I don't think that's really what the spam bot is going to go on. So,
Should be enough words to fulfill the task that you
want. Right.
More is not going to help. Less is not going to help.
Yeah, I remember Steve used to always have that one. It was how many centimeters in a foot or something like that. And they had like a 1-sentence page, and it ranked #1 for years.
However, if some people may remember this, but I remember when people were getting high rankings on Alta. I think it was Alta Vista, because they were only putting 2 words on the page, the keyword that they wanted to rank for. So a lot of engines started, and that would be a keyword density of 100%, by the way.
You could do that because it was in there with Alta Vista, it was instant. You would refresh, because I would do that with my competitors back, because I SEO'd in Alta Vista days. And I would just change things in the head, the meta information, refresh, and duke it. They would just literally duke it out instantly. Those days are gone.
Yeah, and I remember back in the day, I don't remember who it was, but somebody did a test where they had like 3 paragraphs on the page, and they were ranking, I don't know, number 30 for the keyword that was in the last paragraph. Then they moved up to the second paragraph, and they moved up to like the 12 slot. They moved to the first paragraph, and they went to the 3 slot.
Yep.
But this is, I think it was InfoSeek or Alta Vista that they were doing this with way back.
Yep.
Info
title tags, man, I had so much fun with them.
Oh,
it was so easy.
Had the automatic update thing for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the point I was making was there may be legacy algos that kind of say anything less than 300 is kind of, I don't know, red flag.
Thin?
I don't know. Maybe they look at it closer. I don't know, but
well, again, I still think it's got to be query dependent. I obviously haven't done this, but I'm sure if you put into Google how to make toast, do you even need 300 words? Well, I guess I could have 20 different ways to do it with a lighter. Making my toast here and
or boil water.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times it's going to depend on the query, and again, it's that age-old SEO need for that big red button and let me push it and there's my answer. That's not. It's rarely the case.
They all want a formula they can plug into a page, but
no, they could, or back in the blue glass days, you could just hire some monkeys to come work for you and just give them all this little spreadsheet. Just do this every time.
I don't think that was the only one I've seen.
Well, no, it's just what I remember, dude. I'm sorry. We've seen a lot of we've audited quite a few SEO companies, and a lot of them with that cookie cutter mentality.
I never understood why info pages in SEO, why you would ever make an info page that wouldn't convert in paid search. I never understood it. Why wouldn't you always want to have a page that converts, whether you send traffic to it or it's organic? Shouldn't all pages have content?
Even an info page has a conversion. Time spent on the page, i.e., did they read the information? That's kind of for me, that's a conversion on it.
Yeah, did you move them on to the next desired location in the chain, et cetera, et cetera?
Right.
Depends what the goal is, but a direct conversion on a page, maybe not.
The informational page is to set up the conversion page, hopefully. Otherwise, the site has nothing to sell, and why are they there?
Well, that's called a news site. That's where you take your article and break it into 20 pieces and say, make this much, then click here to get the next piece. Click here to get the so you get damn page views up for the advertisers. That's why I stopped reading news sites, to be honest. I got so fucking tired of that, man.
Do you know, I'm addicted to Mail Online because they have really long posts, and what they do is
You mean like men, like Tinder or something? Or
no.
Oh, the other type. Okay, sorry.
The Daily Mail.
Yeah, I was kidding.
Because they have really long posts, and what they do is they take screen grabs from a YouTube video, from the video, and they block it out. So like every 2 sentences is another picture, and I freaking love it. I don't know why I'm addicted to it, but it's good. It's not even that great a content, but I love it because I like the format. I like the scroll. I like the long scroll, the information.
I think that publication is more commonly known as the Daily Fail.
I like it.
Sometimes you guys scare me a little bit, I think.
Sorry.
Oh, well, what else did we have? Well, there's some other stuff, but I don't think I'm going to get through any of it in the time left, so I'll just leave that alone. So, yeah, this week's all about content, folks. Steve, since you're just there and late and quiet, do you have any personal perspectives on content strategy and how you tend to approach things with what you guys are doing? Like, any sort of approach, again, we started off talking about the phrase-based indexing and related concepts and things of that nature. We've moved into conversions and call to we pretty much covered the gamut. I don't know. So you got any insights as far as your approach to things?
Well, I've noticed a lot of big news outlets using a lot of link spam techniques. Because what happens is we have reporters now, they get paid for page views on an article site, say a Bloomberg or somebody like that. The person that writes the article gets paid by views. So now they're starting to do spam campaigns for these news articles, doing link building, because you can go get a news article from a Bloomberg story or something and do a majestic backlink profile on it. And I mean, this looks like one of my old disavow lists for Walmart. You know what I mean?
That's kind of frightening, though, because then they don't really care if the site gets in shit or not. They're just trying to get page views up, and it's not their site.
Exactly.
So you're saying the independent reporters are the ones that are implementing this, or the news site itself?
Or the SEO team for the news site.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it's stupid stuff. Like so-and-so's Kung Fu martial arts blog that has a bunch of stuff. This particular business that has nothing to do with martial arts or at all. You know what I mean? It's the same, the SEO spam. Remember the SEO spam? Just like that. I mean, it's kind of like, I want to go find a pattern and find somebody at Google that does what Matt used to do and say, here, look at this block of stuff, and get them banned. You know what I mean? But I've started watching it, and don't
you get a manual penalty from that?
Well, you would think so, but apparently not, because the way things are going. But the thing is, I think what has to happen is, at one point in time, I was like the human that reported the most spam on the planet, according to Matt. But anybody reporting these spam, you know what I mean? I think that's the thing is I think I would say reporting spam to Google is a lost art form. You should give me a show of hands if you've reported spam in the month of June. Okay.
Not in June.
How about May?
Probably last year, the last time I did.
Okay, so last year. So realize, I alluded to this in an article with Rude Hein a long time ago. It's kind of our responsibility to kind of police this crap a little bit. If we see spam patterns, then we should tell Google, because the farther it goes bad, the worse it is for our customers, right?
I think it becomes discouraging, though, Steve, because Google so often does anything. So,
yeah, but you don't know that, yeah.
Infrequently, they do.
Here's the thing. People say that all this spam, they're getting away with it. We don't know that. Google quit punishing people right away because they sit and watch what's going on, what connects to it.
Get some more information.
Yeah, just more. It's a honey hole. It's like how you conquer spam. Same way, you let it accumulate, find the sources, and go after the sources. It does no good to hit a few, sites. And you know what? When they hit 5 or 6, that's when they hit the news. If they hit one, it doesn't affect enough people. They hit a whole bunch at once. That's when people hear about it and get scared.
To support Terry's point, remember yellowpages.com and Panda 4.0?
Yep.
Same exact thing. But that one.
And that's the thing too, Steve. Google does not have to penalize pages anymore to basically kick them out of the index. They just put Panda on it or Penguin or whatever. You either have to fix. Panda is okay. I don't mind Panda because you could fix Panda. But Penguin, sorry, you never come back to where you were. Never.
And Hummingbird is problematical if you screw up the knowledge panel or the knowledge graph and try and usurp somebody else's brand. There becomes issues. But yeah, I definitely agree. My thing is, what I'm trying to figure out as an SEO and what I'm thinking about and why I brought this up is, how do I or I'm not how do I, it's just going to take time. But what I'm trying to do is perform a framework to where I can actually get this large website penalized in Panda or a Panda update, because I've given enough bulk spam signals to Google for them to say, oh, this is what it did. So I'm basically going to do the same thing I did with yellowpages.com last time. So that's kind of just, you ask where my head's at. My head is at bulk removal of fake news, basically. I did a bunch of fake news previously in the last election campaign, but now it's kind of like, all right, how do we combat that fake news? And it's actually doing it for a client that I'm trying to do. So that answer the question, Dave?
Yeah, it does, and I almost kind of, I do agree to a certain extent with what you guys are saying as far as, a page level thing, if it's, Panda or whatever, because we had the BMW thing once upon a time where they booted them right out of the index back in 2003, maybe two, I don't know. And in different situations like that, in private conversations with Matt back in the day, he often, as much as he'd want to go and make public slaps of thing after that fiasco, Amit Singhal, who was ahead of search quality at the time, was nixing it, saying, no, somebody searched for BMW, that's a search quality issue, because if they don't show up, they don't care if they've been banned for doing something shady. All they know is Google's a piece of crap because BMW didn't come up, right? So, there is that sort of arm wrestling between the spam team and the search quality team that goes on with this kind of stuff. So I think that's something people need to also consider when they start writing off about some, larger entity that's doing something shady. Hey, welcome to the real world. They can get away with a little more than you and I can. That's just it. That's all there is to it. Welcome to reality. Because in the eyes of the search quality team, they don't want the web spam team spanking, larger brands and stuff right out of the index. So, I could see dampening happening on given pages through Panda or something like that, which would make sense. It seems to be more of a compromise that they use these days as opposed to just completely whacking someone.
Yeah, that's also a common kind of misconception by SEOs that all sites are equal. They aren't. If you think they are, you're
I'm choking. I need a drink now, my God.
Because some people can get away with stuff that others can't, and it's because of their.
Well, it's not even getting away with stuff too. It's those lesser known factors like trust and authority and things like that. Any of us that's worked on a major brand knows how quickly you can start ranking a new page compared to your mom and pop. You could take that same piece of content, put it on the mom and pop site, and good luck. If you're managing a big brand site, whoo, bam, because they've got that authority, they've got that trust and stuff from Google. So, yeah, obviously it's not a completely level playing field, and that's why you need a strategy that eats around the edges of those bigger competitors. You don't want to go head to head on your terms. You need a strategy that eats away from the outside and longer tail and whatever.
Go where they ain't.
Yep. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Yeah, there was another one that came up with the group, but was about what was it? 100 Google SEO success factors. Wow, that would take us a while. Ammon kind of lost his shit about it somewhere. I think it was in the Dojo group. Yeah, we're gonna have to leave that for another day. Kevin, you're on vacation week after this. Could you maybe pop in that Wednesday show, or are you out of town?
Yeah, no, I'll be around. I won't. Yes.
Okay, no, just Bill has what is Bill's doing something next week on Wednesday. So
well, the only thing is, what time is it?
What time do you want it? We can move it. I haven't started doing anything promoting it wise, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah, just let me know. Thursday is not good, but Wednesday should be fine.
Yeah, what's a good time for you?
Well, is it more than just me, or is it just me?
Yeah, there's you, me, Doc, Terry, and Mr. Bill Slawski.
This time is good.
Bill, Doc are both. You guys are like Central and Pacific, so
I'm Central as well. Yeah. So, this time, the same time that we do this,
right.
is usually
cool.
fine.
All right. Yeah, so there you go, folks. Anyone listening, watching, we got a nice little show coming up on audits, which should be fun. Everyone kept going off about what was it? Server log files. Gotta say, I haven't used those in an audit in a long time, so curious how many people went off about that.
I haven't need to use them often by any means, you know, but sometimes there's something that you're just not going to find any other way.
Yeah. And I think that's what came out of that discussion in the dojo group, and that's where I'd agree. You know, if you've got that stumble that you can't quite figure, then you got to dig deeper. That's somewhere I would go. But as part of the course on a normal audit, not really something I'm doing.
No, well, you know, Alan kind of,
especially I mean, again, like this real estate site I'm working on with 20 million pages. Yeah, give me the server log files. No.
Yeah, Alan kind of went off as, you know, all these dozens and dozens of audits I've done. I've never once had to use it. Well, maybe you haven't, but you know what? When you need it, you really, really need it.
Hey, once upon a time, it was, you know, before we had all these other tools, that was something we used to use for sure.
But it's something that I've done so little of that I would definitely, I know I could be 100 times better at it, because there's a wealth of information there, and I can barely scratch the surface of it. You know.
I've used it recently, but more so to confirm what my other instincts or other research did, and just to screw around with it, like to Doc's point, to like get more up to date with, oh, I haven't used this in forever, let me go and dive a little further in. But that's using my own time, not on the customer's buck or the client's buck.
All right, well, folks, we're past the hour here. For everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, thanks for joining us again. We're back here next Friday, and I guess in a week and a half, we'll be paying attention to our various channels. We'll be doing a little specific session on audits. All right, folks, everyone say goodbye, and we'll talk to everyone next week.